Yeah, g'day guys, Mark here, and welcome back to my channel. Now, this week there's a few little bits and pieces I'd like to sort of tune and sort out in LinuxCNC to try and make this lathe work a little bit better and more consistently for me. And there's also a few other bits and pieces in the shop that I like to get done as well. So let's get started. Now, when I left you last week, I just managed to drive this boring bar into this piece of metal out here and install the spindle. It was supposed to be boring, of course, in the middle, but I'd made some sort of an offset screw up. I think I'd reset the Z offset position, like where this is, but I must have entered the value in the X offset, radius to diameter line. At least that's what I'm assuming I did wrong. And that got me thinking, because this lathe's got this auto tool changer, which has 4 positions, and each of these positions can take a tool cassette, but also boring bars or round tooling in these holes here, which are very precisely located and allow me to position things like round tools, such as drills or taps and stuff like that, repeatedly on exactly the lathe spindle center line. Now, the way the lathe's set up so far, I've got quite an offset between that center line position and a drill set to drill on center. Now, because the lathe's got a home switch on the x-axis, and that position should be very accurate and repeatable, because after finding the home switch, I then use the next index count of the motor encoder to finalize that position. But I don't think I ever did the work to ensure that in machine coordinates, the 0 position is the center line. It's not essential, but since I'm in the process now of just checking things, let me see if I can work out where this ends up. So if I use the command G53, which means move in machine coordinates, and if I go to rapid move at G0 through to X0, this will move this cross slide to its 0 position. I can now check to see whether that is actually perfectly on center line. Let's work this out. And to have something to indicate off, I'll use this 25mm carbide end mill. Those things are normally pretty nice and accurate. Okay, I've just had to jog this round a bit to get sort of in the ballpark. And you can see there I've still got probably 2/10 of total indicated run out, 2/10 of a millimeter. So let's just jog that over a bit. Oh, that was too much. Yep, a bit more. Start the spindle. Okay, so that now puts the tool on the center line of the spindle, and we can see that we're at an absolute value of 17.625 millimeters. Now, looking at my initialization file, the offset between where it finds its home position and the 0 is 181 millimeters. Wait a minute, let's look at radius here, 8.813. So I'm guessing if I subtract that 8.813 from 181, that should then put the tool holder on the 0 position after homing. Right, so if I correct that value to 172 millimeters, 0.187, let me just put a mark here and we'll see if it lines up. First we need to rehome the axis. Okay, it just sat on its limit switch there, that's not good. To wind it back off its limit switch, I think I take this plate off. I think there's a hex wrenching socket on the end of the ball screw. Right, that should be off the end stop now. Okay, once again, it does the same thing. And again, wind back off that end stop. So the error I was getting with it going on to E-stop with exceeding the X-axis limit was because I still had the home position set at, calling it 180, but the home offset at 172 point whatever. So this number needs to be lower. You could see the clue after it homing, it tried to move further out, and that's when it E-stopped. So if I do this now, okay. So now that's good. If I then do a move to the machine center line, this should put any one of those 4 cylindrical tool holder features directly on center line. And that could be useful because when I'm setting my tool table, that will allow me to have anything like a drill have a set with an X offset of 0. Center drill. I'll have to double check these with tools once I get around to using them, but theoretically I can keep those all now as 0 offset. This also means on a lathe like this, I shouldn't use the workpiece offset in X. I can use it in Z to set whatever is the end point of the piece of work at Z0 so that all cutting moves are negative. That's quite typical for me, but I shouldn't be offsetting from the center line at all with the work because it's a lathe. Any offset from the center line should only be done at the tool level. Okay, let's try this again. So this is now on what it thinks is the 0 position. Jog that in. After switching to a shorter and more sensitive arm, I found that this is about as good as I can get it. So I left it at that for now. I'll see how it works like in practice. Now in my last video, I had an issue with the tool table where I could try and enter a value for the tool angle so it can model them correctly, but it didn't seem to matter what I put in. Those values just got ignored. Well, there were some suggestions that maybe it was because I was trying to enter values like above 180 and maybe it only accepts numbers below 180, but it turns out that was not the problem. A Sierra on the LinuxCNC forum investigated and found it is actually a bug, but I just have to go in and rename some variables in 3 Python files and hopefully it'll work. So let's do that. Okay, so to fix that, there are 3 or 4 files. I just need to switch a line on. And on this one, it's line 480. Where it says local.format, that should be local.format _ string. Okay, that's it for that one. That tool number 12, and see if I can edit this and have it keep something. See, now it's saving the value. Brilliant. Tool number 12 is an orientation 3 with a 35-degree tip, and that's then correct. It's got a 0.4 millimeter nose radius. Those corrections I made are obviously now working. Thanks for your help, Sierra. Well, first the summer here was really hot, and then it started getting thunderstormy. We've had quite a few of them lately. I guess the heat and water's been really good for the chilies because our first ones are ready for harvesting already. That's very early. Anyway, in the meantime, I need to do some chili smoking. Right, so I think this year we're going to do a mixture of whatever these more spicy yellow ones are and our typical red jalapenos. Already got a few of them. Oh, there's also an ancho in there that's just starting to turn. Oh, that's nice.
Querida, no sé cómo sanar esta herida. La tengo abierta y duele todavía. Por ti, querida.
Right, now I'm going to need to fill my smoker, and I've found that the best sawdust is the stuff that actually comes from the main table saw, but I don't have any, so I'll just start chewing down a piece of board. And to catch that sawdust, I've got this cyclone, but it was printed in PLA, and first the bottom broke off, and I gave it a really scungy job of epoxying it back together with a bit of, I think, cotton as a filler. And then sometime later it fell over and broke through the middle here. So what I've done is reprinted it in ABS. I think it's time to install it. That dust will smoulder away for probably 8 to 12 hours, and I'll do it twice before the chilies are finished. And hey, speaking of dust, now the next little job I'd like to work on is this tubing here. I decided that this flexi tube really is too sort of floppy for this location, so I went to the hardware store and bought some rigid tube, and now let's see if I can get it to work. So the idea was to do like a 30-degree this way, get it sort of on angle, and then, oh wait, I think I got two 30 degrees. This should have been a 45, shouldn't it? Oh, although the way this is going to come up quite high, maybe it's better I use the two 30-degree joints here, like that. Ah yeah, that should work reasonably well. So then I put this pipe in here. This is just a leftover. This one plugs in right in there. At this stage I won't bond that in here yet. I'll just use it for a while and see how well that works. Oh, that's done. I'll be doing a Patreon members live stream the same day this video goes live. Love to see you there. I got a lot of good suggestions from you guys on using either wedges or magnets to hold this scoop onto the table more robustly. But realistically, this table needs to move, whereas the suction should be done relative to the wheel. So a better idea was with the suggestions that said pick up on a couple of these screws and make some sort of attachment that the nozzle or the scoop can fit fitted onto this. On my next attempt I think I'll make this a bit thinner, so watch the space. Right, quick check to see if it's still smoking before I go and do the turning. Oh, that's looking good. Okay, check this out. I want to just do a very shallow facing pass of 1/10 of a millimeter. I'm starting 1/10 of a millimeter above my zero. I want to go to 0, 1/10 of a millimeter depth of cut. I've got no taper set, right? It's set on 0. Already checked that. And yet, when I do a facing cut like that, I'll just put a bit of coolant on. Just watch what happens in Z as it does this facing cut. So as you can see, it cut a taper of 1/10 of a millimeter rather than doing a constant 1/10 of a millimeter off the whole face. So I wonder if there's some sort of bug in the Lathe Macro, or it's just some sort of a finger trouble from me. Anyway, I'll just do an MDI move to clean that up. Any recommendations on how to address this would be greatly appreciated, thanks. Right, now the damage has been turned off that face. Let's try this out and just make sure I haven't screwed anything up by running my same tool paths as I was using before to clean out the back of this thing. As you can see, I managed to get my feeds and speeds sorted out quite nicely on that toolpath now, because that's chipping really well. Okay, now I've got a feeling that that insert failed, and if it did, I'll rerun that program with a fresh insert before I move on to the next part. Let me just have a look at that. Right, with only a tiny little bit of chip out on the tip there, I'm going to say that didn't affect the dimensions of the part, so I can move straight on to the next toolpath. Well, that's the last one of these blanks that needed this back turning done. Last week I was out on a business trip for a few days, so didn't get as much done as I was hoping, as always. If you're interested, I'm doing a Patreon and members live stream on the Sunday evening Central European time after this video goes live, so love to see you there. Thanks for watching.